Alright, hopefully this will work. Still like my little group activity thing. Here's the Snakepliskinist. Donde está mi caro?
Alright, so
okay, so we spend a good deal, maybe the first half of the video, going through all of these terms, which it's amazing if you've memorized all those. I'll just jump ahead a little bit.
bats grown and then tested and sawed into little squares and then put in the computers, and the people who program them fucking clueless, right? Similarly, your consciousness is just this emergent property of this inordinately complex informational system.
Okay, well, strictly speaking, what you say is sort of ridiculous, because, like, I as a programmer don't have to understand what's specifically on those chips, but I could understand it, and the whole of human knowledge does include a detailed step-by-step understanding. The fact that I can write something in a high-level language where I don't have to think about the kind of logic gates that are set up to add two numbers doesn't mean that I don't understand in principle how it breaks down. But anyway, I'll apply something I learned in philosophy, which is that you should interpret people's arguments as well as possible. If they make a mistake like that, you should still see what they're getting at, maybe repair, even possibly, their argument or offer such a repair. And I think what you're saying is that understanding where consciousness comes from won't necessarily help us be better at directing it. Well, I think it might, since we're discussing whether or not there is such a thing as willpower. And in our case, even if there is such a thing as a subjective point of view, which seems clear to me there is. If you don't know that, then you just don't understand that what you see is not what everybody else sees, and neither is it directly what's in the world. And I think you do know those things. So I think it might make a difference because of that. But in general, I would accede the point. Of course, the cognitive science of framing tells us a lot about how to run the human mind as a human, from the human point of view. And, knowing where consciousness came from would be amazing, but it probably wouldn't, change the way we, interact with the actual, sort of the programming of the human mind, which is done through sense and motor metaphors, evidently.
And the intermolecular attraction between two water molecules in terms of its dipole-dipole interaction, van der Waals force, and hydrogen bonding, but this will not really give you an understanding of complex systems involving water, like, for instance, the movement of the oceans. Or
it will tell us that. It'll explain the viscosity, the surface tension, why there is surface tension, what the evaporation rate is going to be, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, it does speak to that. So, again, I see what your point might be, that we'll have a different language for being humans using the human mind than we'll get for explaining the physics of consciousness. But again, I have a very easy thing to defend here, which is just that it's worth studying. Just because certain people won't apply what we learn in that study, doesn't change that it's worth studying.
Of these multineuronal interactions. And I mentioned the computer programmers and the logic gates. Those logic gates are relatively simple, but just stringing them up in series creates such complexity that you can't really speak about the computer programming in terms of them.
You can.
And the brain is so much more complex than that.
You absolutely can. It's just not necessary, so you don't always do it. But it's done as an exercise, and it's built step by step, and I guarantee you there are people that understand every step and every transition between steps. And is there one person that understands all of it? Yeah, I think there is. But does that person, have they memorized the circuit design of an Intel chip? Could one person memorize that? No, probably not. But there's people that could be very familiar in understanding and figuring out, because of the component nature of these things, could work it out and would basically understand it. And so I don't see the purpose of the detail of, oh, it's so complex, one person can't understand it. Well, you can make that argument about the Sistine Chapel. Nobody's could memorize every single, detail, and it doesn't make it conscious, right? Remember, we're talking about consciousness and wondering where does that come from.
We do have a choice. It's just that we couldn't possibly choose otherwise than we choose. So, I mean, I guess in a larger scope of things, there is no choice. But
basically, it doesn't matter the elusiveness of the choice. It does. It comes up again. But you're disagreeing with me on the idea that there's a subjective experience that is having that illusion. Why is there a process of perception that's sensed as such? When a computer plays chess, it's just looking at all of the possibility. It's going through them computationally. There's no notion that inside that chess it's going, oh, I wonder if I should do this, I wonder if I should do that. I don't think there's a subjective experience in a chess computer. And you can see, because the way it does its job is the way a human that doesn't understand chess might brute force his way through. So that's the question. Why is there this internal experience? And if you say that you're not having one, well, that defies materialism to me, right? I believe you are having an experience, and it has to be internal. It's certainly not going on outside your body or in my brain, your experience.
Sure, it's all determined and it's all out of our control, including our control itself. But within the context of our limited scope of existence, we do have a choice. Just, it's not a magical choice. It is the chemical reaction. It's not.
See, I think you're the one that's saying it's magical by implication, right? Because if you're going to say, oh, it's just complexity, don't ask any more. Why is there gravity? Oh, it's just the general nature of the universe sucks. What kind of systems have the choice? Do computers have the choice? Are they experiencing this choice?
Chemical reaction is like millions of chemical reactions, not to mention the electrochemical effects that I mentioned before.
Yeah, and looking into quantum mechanics to explain conscious thought as opposed to mechanical computational behavior is all about looking into the chemistry in more detail, since quantum mechanics is chemistry. All right, cheers.